Today we're going to be breaking down the pros and cons of living in one of my favorite cities, Frisco, Texas. Let's go. What's up, my guy? John O here, selling North Dallas. Hope you're doing well. Today we're breaking down the pros and cons of living in Frisco, Texas. If you're here, it probably means Frisco, Texas is on your radar. You're either outside of Texas or Dallas, the DFW Metroplex, or thinking about coming here, and you're just doing a little research to try to figure out maybe the best landing spot. The scope of this video is to help with that decision and share some things as someone who's grown up around here, what it's like living, working, playing in and around Frisco, Texas. I've said for years, we live in Frisco, Texas. We just sleep in Prosper. Our address is Prosper, Texas, but we probably spend more time collectively throughout the day in Frisco because it's awesome. It's baller. So hopefully you'll find this video educational, entertaining. Be sure to stick around until the end where I'm going to break down one of the properties that we just dispositioned from our portfolio, showing you real numbers of the money that we made and the opportunity that we had. But for now, let's just get started. Okay, you cannot have a video about Frisco, Texas and its pros and its cons without talking about the school system. Frisco ISD, arguably one of the greatest school systems in the country. There is so much going on. In fact, when Katie was still in education, she actually worked for Frisco ISD at the CTE Center, the Career and Technical Education Center. When I was in high school, we had home ec, where they taught you how to boil an egg or measure out flour, right? If you were in home ec, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I feel you, bro.
These guys, this is not home ec. This is like next level baller status. For example, Katie taught traditional French cuisine to high school students. Knife skills, showing them how to debone a pork shoulder. Colossal pain in the ass. But aside from having a complete commercial grade kitchen where they were teaching all of these things, they had a student run restaurant. So not only did you get access to the cooking side of it, but also how to run a small business and staffing it. You can actually go there now as a member of the community and have lunch at the student-run restaurant where the students are taking the orders and they're cooking the food and the chefs are there to oversee it, but it's a student-run restaurant. Who does that? You know, right now there's 12 high schools in the city of Frisco, so they'll bust these students in from all of the campuses. Rather than having a small kitchen at each high school, they have this massive center, and it's so cool. So down in the description, we'll put a link to the CTE Center. Some of the programs, let's check this out. The CTE prepares students for success in futures they create. Health science clinical students learn and engage in patient care skills at area clinical sites. Students are preparing for the certified nurse aide exam they will take in December. Frisco ISD Tech. Student awareness must protect your password. Hotel management. Hotel management students recently visited 2 local hotels to gain insight on hotel operations as they learn about each department in class. So we've got a student-run restaurant, we've got health science clinical students, hotel management. What else we got in here? I think this is what I was looking for. These are the courses that they offer through this CTE program. Agricultural, food and natural resources, arts, AV, technology and communications, information technology, Cisco video, computer science, video game design, right? Not just the cursory, here's a computer, here's where the LRB is, little red button for all my IT guys. Here's where the any key is. Like, this is a deep dive into the IT segments that they offer. Architecture and construction, government and public administration, law, public safety, corrections and security, education and training, health science, marketing, business management and administration, finance, hospitality and tourism, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. What a cool deal, right? And this is just the Frisco CTE Center. Now, that's not the scope of this video, but the Frisco ISD offer so many programs. There's a reason people move from all over the country for their kids to participate in these schools. I went to high school in Western Kentucky. I've said many times on this channel, I'm lucky I know how to count to 10 without taking my shoes and socks off, much less having business management and administration, not through a normal high school class, but where you're shipped to a separate campus that's specifically designed for this curriculum. I just think that's dope. And that's just on the education side. Arguably, there's nowhere better in the country to raise an athlete than Frisco, Texas. There's literally everything you can imagine from a sports perspective. When I went to high school, we had football, baseball, basketball, soccer. There was a golf team. These guys have water polo, fencing, wrestling, lacrosse, field hockey, like over the top offerings. That's great. Now, those are not all UIL programs. Some of them are club sports, but you get the idea. And that's just through the schools. So that's obviously a pro. Leading directly into this next one would be the people. People out here are just nice, especially if you're coming from the East Coast or the West Coast. Heard somebody say the other day, they were talking about the differences between East Coast and West Coast, and they mentioned on the West Coast, they're nice but not helpful. And on the East Coast, they're helpful but not nice. If you had a flat tire in California, somebody might say to you, oh man, that really sucks, but they don't offer a hand. Whereas on the East Coast, they're treating you like an idiot for even having a flat tire, but they'll go way out of their way to help you change it. Here in Texas, it's kind of the best of both worlds. People hold the doors for you. Southern hospitality, it's just expected that you're polite and have manners. In fact, it's almost weird when people don't have manners, right? That's unusual rather than it being unusual that people are just friendly. Anyway, you'll see what I'm talking about. The people are baller. Next point. So this one is on the cons side of the house, and it's the cost of living. So I did a quick search on the MLS for closed properties over the last 90 days in Frisco ISD. I specifically did Frisco ISD rather than Frisco address. The median home price in Frisco, according to the multiple listing service over the last 90 days, this is closed data listed on the MLS, $593,150. That's the median price. Whereas say in Dallas, the median home price over the last 90 days is $370,000. If you click this link right here, I just did a breakdown of the top 5 reasons why you should consider moving to Frisco instead of Dallas. So if you want to check that out and then come back to this video, I do a deeper dive on that. Hopefully that's helpful. Next pro that I want to mention about Frisco, Texas is it's practically brand new, especially if you spend a little bit of time in the city to the south, which is Plano. Plano is more established. Sometimes people call it Plano. Idiots! But it's pronounced Plano. It's more established. You drive through some of the neighborhoods, the trees are bigger, the homes are older, whereas Frisco, it feels brand new. It feels clean, right? The infrastructure, the streets, globally speaking, they just have a newer, cleaner feel than Frisco, Allen, McKinney. There are older parts of Frisco. You can find homes in the 40s and 50s in Frisco, but by and large, those are the outliers. The garden variety, not only commercial, but also residential around Frisco is newer. Now, some could argue there's a con because like you drive through some of these neighborhoods, all the trees are tiny. It's because they just got planted in the last 10 years, right? So holistically, the city just feels newer and cleaner than some of its neighbors. Just saying. Okay, next con on the list, co-serve. Texas is deregulated from an electricity perspective, but there are parts of Frisco that you can either use co-serve or you can use another electricity provider. The electricity is all coming through the same lines, the same infrastructure, but who you pay your bill to and the cost for that electricity varies depending upon the provider. And if you have a certain address, you don't get a choice. You're using co-serve as an electric provider. So down in the description, I'll include a link that shows their interactive map. In fact, I've got it pulled up here. If you pull this up in the top right-hand corner, that's where the legend is. and it shows this dark green is co-serve only. So something to consider if you really care about that. There are several businesses that are electric providers, and the people that work for those providers feel very strongly about using their company for their electricity. So you want to know that. If that's going to be a deal killer for you, you're going to want to know that before you go shopping for houses. You're welcome. All right, so is this helpful? We're about halfway through the video. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. I'll give you a chance to do that now, and be sure to turn on the notification bell. And to reward you for subscribing to the channel, here's a video of me getting out of my pool naked. You're welcome. All right, next up on the pros list, roads and infrastructure. This would be a good time to talk about traffic. So down in the description, I'll include a link to this map. This is all of Dallas and Fort Worth, and this section up here is Frisco. So it covers a good bit of real estate, but as we zoom in, the southern border of Frisco is this road right here. This is the Sam Rayburn Tollway. The locals usually refer to it as 121, which is technically the service road. Way back in the day, 121 was all stoplights, and now it's a toll road. But if somebody says SRT, that's what they're talking about. So the southern border is the Sam Rayburn Tollway. To the east, I believe that's Custer Road. This up here is El Dorado Parkway. No, Panther Creek. Panther Creek up here. And then there's parts of it that touch up to 380. But this right here is Panther Creek, and then 423 is parts of it, and then it cuts in here. I think that's Teal. It doesn't matter. We won't include that part. So depending upon where you are, if you're close to Hackberry, Little Elm on that southern edge, or on this northern end, you know, the line can be a little confusing. But let's look at traffic. So this is the traffic right now. It's 2:18 Central Standard Time, and this is the traffic in Frisco. So right here, they're doing some work on the north end of the tollway. The Dallas North Tollway is this main road right here that takes you all the way into downtown. But parts of Preston for the most part is a 6-lane road. And if I'm going into Frisco from Prosper, I usually take Preston. If I'm going into Dallas, or if I'm going to another, maybe the south end of Frisco, I'll take the tollway. But 289 or Preston Road is the more prominent artery for most folks. If you're going to be driving in the mornings, I would totally bookmark this link and just check the traffic whenever you're going to be driving in. It really feels like it's all Dallas. You really can't tell when you're leaving one and going to the next, except for things like roads and infrastructure. When you start getting into some of these older cities like Plano, or like into parts of Dallas, they're like driving on the surface of the moon. It's terrible. The potholes.
Oh man, swerve them potholes.
You don't really see that in Frisco. Right? The infrastructure, it's really great, especially considering the massive growth Frisco's experienced over the last 2 decades. Frisco, planning, you did a great job. Some would argue against that. Depending upon where you're going to at the time of day, there is some congestion, but it's a very popular place to live. One of the other good things about it is, because of the where Lake Louisville is, there's not a lot of bridges and water that you have to deal with. Whereas if you say lived in Rockwall, right, or Rowlett, like you're mainly you've got these 2 main options. Unless you're going around the lake, you're going over a bridge. Hopefully that's helpful. This is probably my biggest pet peeve about Frisco is the freaking drivers. Now, I'm not gonna get too excited. I'm not gonna use the F word here. You know what? I might use the F word. Just distracted drivers, and this is a big part of just the culture that we live in right now. People are distracted. They've got their damn phone in their hand. They're checking out TikToks and doing dances, and you see this driving up the road. Everybody's buried in their phone, so you really got to watch out for other people. And my daddy used to say, "You can be dead right." If you're stopped at a stoplight and you're the first car and the light turns green, do not press on the gas pedal without checking to your left and your right and the left again. People habitually run red lights here. and you'll get run over and you'll be dead, and it'll be their fault, but you'll be dead and I'll be sad. Keep your head on a swivel. Situational awareness, we're all about it. Drivers, you just got to watch out for them. Driving in the left lane, driving the speed limit in the left lane. The left lane is for passing. The left lane is for passing. Well, Jono, I'm about to turn left. Don't turn left, ever. I'm kidding. If you're turning left, of course. But here's a pro tip. Drive in the center lane. And don't get in a hurry. Don't worry about passing the guy in front of you. Just find you a nice audible, something relaxing or educational to listen to, and just follow the guy in front of you. The people switching lanes and driving like maniacs,
Hey, slow down!
usually that's the cause of car wrecks. I have no data to back that up other than just anecdotal experience. Don't get in a hurry and use your turn signal. You're gonna be fine. Most people don't use their turn signal, which is why drivers made the list. Okay, I'm sorry. I got through that whole segment without using the F word. Good job, Jono. Okay, massive pro. Massive pro. The attractions. There's so much to do, whether it's going to the Star, going out to eat, finding a patio somewhere and just hanging out, the golf courses, the shopping, upscale and otherwise. There's just a ton of attractions around here. In Frisco, you got Toyota Stadium, Tollway at Main Street. There's concerts. FC Dallas plays there. There's some really cool stuff. Just south of Toyota Stadium is the square. Now, I would say most of the square is newer construction. It's got a really cool feel, the lights, especially at Christmas time. You can drive through there and you turn your radio to a certain station and the lights are in time with the music on the radio station, which is kind of cool. But there's just great restaurants and people watching down there. The library's down there. Nerdvana is a really cool hangout spot where you can go and sit at a bar and have a drink and play video games, play board games. There's just some cool stuff to do down there that is pretty inexpensive to do. So if you're bored, downtown, it's not really downtown. Downtown Frisco is just to the east, down Main Street, and there's a few shops down there right where it says Summer Moon, Fifth Street Cafe. Fifth Street Cafe is right around in here somewhere. Good breakfast, jammy. It's not on here. Fifth Street Cafe, add your damn website to Google My Business, pretty please, so I don't look like a nitwit.
Watch it, nitwit.
I'm gonna look like a nitwit anyway, let's be honest. Okay, so that's downtown Frisco, but the square is kind of a cool little spot. Frisco Square, there it is. In fact, in the wintertime, they'll have an outdoor ice skating rink down here, right behind, oh, there's Nerdvana. What is it? It's the Firehouse Subs. This right here ends up being a skating rink. Frisco feels completely different than the neighboring city to the south, Plano. If you drive to Grapevine, it feels completely different. You go to Fort Worth, it's completely different. Downtown Dallas, completely different. Arlington, Irving, all of these cities almost feel like little cities themselves. But just the demographic, the stuff to do, like there's so much going on, but it's not all the same stuff no matter where you go. There really is a great variety. This is a video about Frisco, but that felt important to say. So this next one, there's good and bad with it. That would be the growth of Frisco. Actually, let me pull up the economic development website. So I'll put a link to this site down in the description as well. On the Frisco Economic Development website, in Frisco, one of the fastest growing cities in Texas and the US, the city's ongoing success has driven the dramatic increase in its modern diverse population, skyrocketing more than 500% in just 2 decades. Like, it feels like the land of opportunity out here. There are so many networking groups. As an entrepreneur, I love that. Birds of a feather flock together, and I love being around other entrepreneurs that just get how my mind works.
I know the way his mind works.
And there's a ton of business around here. DFW on the whole is the home to a lot of corporate headquarters. Neiman Marcus is here, AT&T, 7-Eleven's out here, Toyota, Pepsi, Frito-Lay. There's a lot happening out here, but that's just on the major company side. Microsoft has offices here, but there's just a lot going on. Now those are not in Frisco. Those are the DFW metro area. But a lot of those folks there's a lot of white collar opportunity, and most of those people, I would submit to you, live in the suburbs, and Frisco being one of the more popular suburbs for all of the reasons that we've already mentioned. That's really exciting. And there's even more people still coming. The inbound migration from states like California, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Arizona. There's a lot of people that are coming to Dallas, and we still have a supply and demand problem, right? The market has softened. There's a ton of inventory now, especially compared to what was available, when things were crazy post-COVID. We're still in a seller's market. There's more people buying than there are houses to buy. Like, that's data. That's undisputed. That's good, right? Well, depending upon your perspective, more people coming to the area, that's a strain on resources and infrastructure, and that's more traffic, and that's more boneheads driving in the left lane.
Oh man, swerve them potholes.
So good and bad, I think you see the point. So the last thing that I want to cover, I teased a little bit about this at the beginning of the video. The greatest pro I can see to living in Frisco would be the real estate. So I want to give you a specific example. We bought a property that we intended to hold as a rental. It's called rental properties, hold properties. Single family residence that we bought in Frisco in 2017, paid $220,000 for it. And over the next 5 years, somebody else paid the mortgage. In fact, they overpaid the mortgage. So we had a surplus, or what's known as cash flow, the difference between our expenses, our money out, and the money coming in is cash flow. And in this case, we were cash flowing at the end about $500 per month. It was a little higher in the beginning, but as the tax bases went up, that ate into some of the cash flow. Suffice to say, somebody paid the mortgage for 5 years. We had a great tenant and put an additional, let's just call it $500 a month into our pocket. So deferred maintenance was covered. So when something would tear up, we would just take it out of the checking account that property funded. We bought it for $220,000 in 2017. We sold it. In fact, we closed July 19th of this year, 2022. We sold it for $385,000, $385,900 to be exact. That's a gross profit of $165,900. And if you spread that across 5 years, that's like saying $33,180 per year. So, not to be assumptive, but if you had an extra $33,000 a year coming in, what would you do with the income? It's such a desirable area. There's so much growth, the supply and demand issue aside, and there's some crazy things coming after the first of the year that we'll talk about in another video. The opportunity for real estate is still phenomenal, even after factoring in what interest rates are doing right now. As you can probably tell, I'm a massive Frisco, Texas fan. If you click right here, there's a playlist that we've curated on the channel specifically geared towards Frisco, Texas, including properties that we've toured, and there's a wide whack of options in there. Take some time, check out that playlist. I think you'll appreciate what you find. And now for a special announcement from my good friend Ice Cube.
Bye, Felicia.